Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Chinese Tier 10 Premium Heavy Tank, the BZ-72-1. Now if you do like the video as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the BZ-72-1, what's it like as a heavy tank? Well, I think it's just pretty well balanced, to be fair. It's a pretty balanced heavy tank because the firepower is nice. It's got a good 560 Alpha gun that's very consistent in hitting its shots. The reload for a 560 Alpha is about right as well. It's in that sort of average area. The armour on it is nice on the turret front here and here, but the cupolas on top can catch shots, which can be annoying. And also, the upper and lower plate are not great. The lower plate is absolute Swiss cheese. Everything goes through it really, really easily. And as soon as tanks at tier 10 fire premium, they go through this upper plate really quite annoyingly. It's a 50-50 generally. They go through the upper plate half the time when they fire premium as well, which makes the hull armour just fairly unreliable, which is very, very annoying at times in this vehicle. The side scrapeability of this tank is quite good though, as it does have pretty good side armour, and the general profile of the vehicle helps it to side scrape quite nicely. It does get set on fire all the time, and that is absolute pain. Even running fire prevention on this vehicle, which reduces the chances of getting set on fire by 33%, it gets set on fire all the time. And most annoyingly, it gets set on fire even without damaging the fuel tanks, which can be so frustrating on this vehicle. So frustrating indeed. But generally, it's, on the whole of my experience of playing it, it's been pretty decent to play. It's not been incredible, but it's not been bad. And to be honest, I think I prefer the Tech Tree BZ-75, just because it's got that similar mobility, although this is a little bit quicker to get to its top speed. It's still got that similar mobility. You've got the rocket boosters, and you've got a gun that actually hits a lot harder on the BZ-75, and I prefer that to this vehicle for that in general. Not that this tank doesn't hit hard with 560, I just prefer the 650 Alpha of that tank, and the general fact that the armour works that little bit better for me on the BZ-75 than it does on this, and it doesn't get set on fire quite as much as the BZ-72-1 as well. But you do have the rocket boosters, as you can see here. You get 5 boosts, which is something that is a nice little gimmick for the vehicle. But it is fairly expensive at, what, 500,000 free XP if we go find it over here? 500,000 free XP. Now, I always love it when tanks go on sale for free XP because you can make your own discount, which is always great. And I figure that the 50k extra on the cost of it is because you're going to be able to get a skin for this vehicle. But that's pure guesswork. I don't actually know. So let's get into the statistics of the BZ-72-1. So we've got a 30 km/h top speed, 15 km/h reverse speed, 900 horsepower engine, which is 16.67 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you will get to that top speed pretty quickly for this vehicle, faster than the BZ-75 because it is better power to weight, and your 1.9 on soft, 1.1 on medium, and 1 on firm is pretty good ground resistances, and again, they don't hold it back that much, and it will feel a little bit less sluggish in getting to that top speed than the BZ-75, but you still feel incredibly slow with that 30 km/h top speed. This is one of those where I feel like I wish it had that extra 5 km/h top speed to be the more average heavy tank mobility, and then have the rocket boosters, and it would make it that bit more different to the BZ-75, but there we go. It's very slow and sluggish in terms of getting to, with that top speed, I should say, which makes the general mobility of the tank and make it feel that little bit lethargic at times. You do have the rocket boosts, and you have a 12% internal fire chance as well, which feels like an absolute lie, by the way, because that's on the low end. Feels like a lie. Gets it on fire all the time. You've got rocket boosters with a 4-second cooldown, so once you press left on the D-pad and you've used all of the boost, it'll then recharge in 4 seconds to be able to use the other boost that you've got, because you have 5 of them, and they'll last 10 seconds when you use the rocket boosters, just like the other rocket booster vehicles. You got 34 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which means the tank turns decently quickly on its tracks. It's not incredibly fast, but it's not slow, and that's decent for the BZ-72-1. 400 meters of view range means you can get your view range up to a very good level for this vehicle, meaning that you can spot for yourself very, very easily and get some good assistance damage games depending on the map, which is nice for the BZ-72-1. 24 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slower than the tracks by quite a way, and if you know me, that annoys me, but I can't run rapid aim because I want to help the gun out as much as possible, and we need to run fire prevention because this thing gets set on fire all the time. So if I'm reducing the ability to, or the chance of getting set on fire, that's what I want to do instead. But 24 degrees a second is slow for the turret traverse, which means you do turn the turret a lot slower than the tracks. 0.96 accuracy during rotation with a 2.4 accuracy during movement is not the best in the universe, and it means the aim circle does bloom out a fair bit, but once you run the gun stabilizer and run all 3 gun perks, the aim circle won't bloom out quite as badly. Now, naturally, we're going to look at the statistics here for it being base, and when you're running the gun perks and the gun stabilizer, it's going to get down to a good level, and yeah, the aim circle doesn't bloom out much at all. It doesn't take long to aim this gun in, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's probably one of those things that's going to change next week when the new crew and equipment system comes in. So when we get to the statistics where we show you it fully kitted out, you're going to have to take that with a pinch of salt, because that's all going to have changed by next week. But I digress. 2.4 and 0.96 isn't that great. And with the gun stabilizer and gun perks, you're going to get that down to a decent level, which you'll probably still get down to a decent level anyway with the gun stabilizer and running gun and snapshot, which will still be in the equipment and crew system next week anyway. So you still get those two down to a decent level anyway, and that means the aim circle doesn't bloom out that much. 0.4 accuracy at 100 meters, though, is pretty derpy, and it means it does like missing shots at distance, but once again, once you're taking steady aim and all that sort of stuff, the accuracy doesn't matter. It will hit most of its shots you want to hit. 8 degrees of gun depression is very flexible for the vehicle, and it's very nice. It feels very un-Soviet-esque type vehicle-like, having that 8 degrees of gun depression, if you get my drift. And it is very nice for the vehicle, makes it very flexible on the ridgeline. Not incredibly flexible like 10 or 12, but good enough on a ridgeline that it makes it nice and makes it feel comfortable there, which is good for the tank. You got a 15-second reload, which is 2.2k DPM, and like I say, with all the stuff that you can get kitted out on this vehicle, which will drop by next week, but with all the stuff you can get kitted out, you'll get that up to about 3k DPM, which is about average for a 560 Alpha vehicle. 260 penetration on the standard AP, 320 on the heat rounds, and 65 on the HE for 560 Alpha and 640 respectively, means that you don't really struggle to pen most vehicles you're going to face, and you can use the HE quite nicely against some lightly armoured vehicles, which is also pretty good. You got 1,000 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, 950 on the heat and HE, which means that the velocity is bang on average in terms of the AP velocity, and the heat and HE is just slightly below, meaning you do have to give a decent amount of lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with this BZ-72-1. And in terms of bonuses, premium bonuses, this tank doesn't really get any. It's because it's a tier 10 premium, they don't generally get any bonuses. So let's have a quick look at the modules. As you can see, that's where the engine bay is on this vehicle, and it's behind the tracks. Part of the reason why this vehicle gets set on fire all the time is because look at that. That is why it gets lit on fire. Directly behind the tracks, so any shot that tracks you will probably set you on fire. Any shot that hits you in the back will probably set you on fire. And that's why this tank is so much pain with the fires, because just look at the placement of the engine and the fuel tanks. It's just pure pain. Any shots that are going through there is just, yeah, not a good time for this vehicle. And it means that any shots that hit you in the left or right of the lower plate as well likely set you on fire. And because they'll probably travel through to the engine at the back as well, it'll likely set you on fire. And that's why I say this tank gets lit on fire all the time. And it's just super duper frustrating. That's where the ammo racks sit as well, so if you shoot this thing in the back of the turret, you like to damage the ammo rack, and if you shoot it dead centre of the vehicle there, you can damage the ammo rack by doing that as well, and I've had my ammo rack damaged quite a few times by people shooting that thing right there, which, yeah, it's a bit of a walking crit bell, to be fair, this tank, which is part of the pain of playing it, is when you're not getting shot and you get to use the vehicle to use the gun and you're using the turret armour, it's bouncing shots off the turret, it's great, but as soon as you start getting into that position where people can just about catch shots into you, it just starts going downhill very quickly for this vehicle, which is not uncommon, but just the walking crit bell effect of this vehicle, yeah, it's not great. That's where the crew sits in this vehicle as well. So what we're now going to do is go and have a look at the armour, which is the same as it is on PC, so we can actually use Tanks GG, which is nice because I can actually point out the effective armour of this vehicle. So as you can see with this tank using its own 260mm of penetration, that lower plate, absolute Swiss cheese. Really, really easy to pen for any vehicle that it'll ever come against. And then you're firing AP against that upper plate, and it'll just go through it really, really easily. If they're firing heat. Look, heat rounds, straight through. Pure pain. As it just means that this vehicle will struggle with the upper plate, lower plate. And when the premium spam starts coming in, yeah, not a good time for the BZ-72-1. And you've got to be careful of the cupolas on top as well. As you can see here, they'll go through that pretty easily, which means that you've got to be wiggling up and down on a ridgeline, not just sitting there thinking they're going to bounce every single shot off of this turret front, because they won't. They'll be able to pen those cupolas, which is where the frustration of this armour comes into play, and why I say it's really hit and miss in how it works. It can side scrape pretty well as well, though, as you can see here, it's pretty good at side scraping, as that armour works really, really effectively when you are only exposing it. Just be careful of not catching shots into that cupola, as that can be a bad time. Also, flaps. You've got 20mm of armour on that underside, which means if somebody is shooting slightly up at your tracks like this, pretty much every tank in the game at tier 9 and 10 will overmatch that flap armour there and will go straight through it and up and into the vehicle. So you have to be really careful, which is where I say the armour on this vehicle is really finicky and really, really annoying to use, because at some points you go, yeah, it's pretty good, and then at others, it just bounces, which is, yeah, not a good time for the BZ-72-1. But that is the armour. What do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? But like I say, this will change by next week, so, bear that in mind. So we have put the crew in the Highlander. Let's get it into the BZ-72-1. So as you can see here, we've got Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, and Fire Prevention. Like I say, Fire Prevention because we want to reduce the chance of getting set on fire, because it gets set on fire all of the time, so it's nice to be able to do that. All 3 gun perks because you want to make the gun as good as humanly possible, and obviously by next week you'll still have Snapshot and Run and Gun, but not Steady Aim, so that won't change really for the vehicle in terms of taking those 2. And Track Mechanic, because you are a fairly brawly vehicle, you're going to want to take that to be able to get your tracks back on as quickly as possible. And in terms of the equipment, food as always, because it's just such a valuable thing for the tanks. The advanced loader, the gun stabilizer, and optics. Optics to be able to get the view range up as high as humanly possible so that I can spot for myself in this vehicle and make nice assistance damage games at times. The gun stabilizer to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as humanly possible so that the gun bloom isn't that bad. And the advanced loader to get the best out of the DPM. And realistically, again, when the crew and equipment changes come in next week, that's probably not going to change. You're still going to run all 3 of those. You're just going to have the ability to run something else in that 4th slot. So that's what I run in terms of a crew and equipment. Let's have a look at the statistics now. It's fully kitted out. So as you can see, the top speed, we've not helped out much at all. It's still the same. You've got a 7.25 internal fire chance now. And like I say, it still gets on fire all the time. So I don't know what to make of that. The ground resistances have got a little bit better. You've got 512 meters of view range, which again really helps to be able to spot for yourself really nicely in this vehicle. 26.06 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slower than the tracks, which means that you will have to keep turning the turret of the tank and the tank in the same direction to get the gun on target. 0.47 accuracy during rotation with a 1.37 accuracy during movement now, with all 3 gun perks and that gun stabilizer is actually really good, and really good for this 130mm type of gun as well, which means that the aim circle doesn't bloom out much at all, and you're ready to snap shots left, right and centre. 2.3 second aim time is not the best, but you don't feel it because the aim circle doesn't bloom out. You've got 0.32 accuracy at 100 meters, which means that this tank is also pretty accurate when you do get it fully aimed, and it's pretty much fully aimed most of the time. 10.94 second reload is 3069 gigabyte DPM, which again is in a decent place, and it's in a fairly average spot for a 560 alpha gun at tier 10, and is fully usable. And with the general gun handling, that nice shell velocity on the tank, it just generally feels like a pretty nice gun to use on any vehicle really. And once you get yourself into a nice farmy location, it can be good. If you can side scrape in this vehicle, it can be a nice time. Hull down using 8 degrees of gun depression, only exposing the turret, great. But as soon as the hull armor becomes exposed and people are firing premium, they just go through it all the time. They catch shots in it all the time, which is super frustrating. And a lot of the time when they go through that upper plate or that lower plate, they set you on fire, which is, yeah, again, a pure frustration for the BZ-72-1. And it's, like I say, one of the reasons why I just prefer playing the BZ-75. I do prefer this vehicle quite a lot, and obviously it's free to grind in the tech tree, because that 650 alpha is lovely. It slaps hard. The gun handling generally, while being worse, feels just the same because the accuracy during rotation and movement is in a very good spot. As you can see, you've got worse aim time, sure, and worse accuracy at 0.34, but only by 0.02, right? But the gun handling still feels great. And you've got better shell velocity on your AP, which makes hitting those AP shells feel a little bit nicer as well. And the heat rounds are the same shell velocity. and you've got about the same well, only 100 less DPM than the BZ-72-1 as well, which means you don't feel like you've got terrible DPM, and that 650 alpha is something that is very, very nice. But as you can see with the mobility, the horsepower per ton ratio is a lot lower, the ground resistances are a lot worse, so generally the mobility of this vehicle feels a lot more sluggish. But for me personally, because of the way the armour works, because on this vehicle, that upper plate bounces a lot unless they catch you in the pike nose at certain angles. The lower plate gets penned a lot all the time, but, you know, that's lower plates. And this turret armour here on the turret front bounces a lot of shells unless they catch shots in these cupolas. So generally it works fairly similarly to the BZ-72-1, but it's just felt a bit more consistent in that regard for me. And it doesn't get set on fire all the time. It's Chinese, so it gets set on fire, but nowhere near the level of the BZ-72-1, because look, that's where the engine block is, and there's no fuel tanks in the front, so generally if you get shot in the spots you're expecting to get shot in the front, you don't get set on fire that often in the BZ-75, compared to this vehicle, which is all the time. But yeah, that's the BZ-72-1. Only you can decide whether it's worth it or not, because obviously, like I say, 500k for XP is a lot, but a lot of people might have 200,000-300,000 knocking around, and they cost 4 or 5k gold just to convert over 200k, which is not too bad for a tier 10 premium at the end of the day. So it's really down to you and how you feel about the tank generally. What I'm going to do now is send you into the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's a bit of you or not. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the BZ-72-1, and this first game is going to be a fairly average game for the tank here on steps, and we've got the wonky spawns of steps. So with wonky spawn steps, I don't particularly want to go down the HJK line in the BZ-72-1. Number one, we're too slow. We never reach the corner at K0, which is kind of where you want to go if you go to that flank. But the other thing is that they can get up to 890 very, very easily and completely cut you off before you ever get across the open field. And again, in a slow tank like this, it's going to be a struggle, and generally that fight is a lot of a struggle anyway. What you're best to do with this map, with this wonky spawn from our side, is to get yourself over to the positions at E2, here at F2 as well. Go all down, try and fight this corner and stop their advance down the BCD line. Now you've got to be careful of the TDs and stuff that can sit at a B6, because they can sit there without getting spotted and will be able to fire at you with impunity. And a lot of the time they will get spotted if they fire, but generally they'll have the ability to fire at you and instantly get themselves safe. So you've got to be very, very careful of that. So you can see, by pressing left on the D-pad, we do have the rocket boosters, which is the gimmick for the tech tree for the Chinese heavy tanks. And if you press left on the D-pad, you have that 10-second boost where you go up to 45 kilometers an hour, and you'll not be able to traverse very well to the left and the right. You won't be able to reverse. You'll just keep driving forwards at an extreme speed. I say extreme speed, 45 kilometers an hour. But it's very, very useful for actually going up hills as well, because you generally get up to that towards that top speed even going up a hill. So it's very, very nice for that indeed. But it's a bit of a pain in general when you have to stop, because sometimes you can't stop and you go, oh no, I can't stop, this is awkward. But yeah, but it is also it is attached to your top speed. So if we were to run the powertrain and the traction system, we wouldn't, because we want to help the gun out, and running both would be really painful to everything else. But if we run to the powertrain traction system, we go up to 34-35 kilometers an hour top speed with this vehicle, and then you'd also, on top of that, have an increase with the rocket booster speed as well. You'd be going at nearly 50 odd. So it is linked to the top speed if you want to run the traction system, powertrain, etc, etc. But that's one thing that goes with it. But yeah, 45 kilometers an hour top speed with the speed that we have here is good enough to get us across positions, get across open fields very, very easily. The problem is with this vehicle is that you only get 5 of them, and that is it's limiting. And considering that the BZ, it's weird though, because it's considering that BZ-75 has 6. It's quite odd that the other tier 10 doesn't get 6 as well. But yeah, it's a bit of pain for the BZ-72-1, because as soon as you run out that rocket boosters, yeah, you're very, very slow, and the mobility of this vehicle is just absolute pain without it. It really, really is. So you've seen us in this game so far. We went to that position at C2, we brawled our little heart out, we've lost quite a bit of our hit points, but we've managed to get 2.6k damage so far with 688 assistance, and we've completely stopped their advance down the ABC line. So what we're going to do now is turn around, because we've seen that they've taken the HJK line, they've killed the people that were there, so we want to go stop them being able to go and cap it, because naturally, as we'd expect, it happens quite often, we feel like they're probably going to cap. So we want to get back there, stop them from doing that, and just be a defensive feature. So we poke over, see the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, and go, absolutely not. I'm not going to poke over, he'll get shot into my lower plate quite easily, probably set me on fire, don't want that. So instead, we're going to go after the Highlander and the Thunder Chief. So we see the Highlander crossing the open, aim the shot up, put the shot straight through his side, finish him off, putting us on 3004 damage. See the E50's full health against the 263. He should be able to go after that guy and get a shot or two into his lower plate quite easily. So we're going to focus on the Thunder Chief. So we try and put a shot into the side of the lower plate of the Thunder Chief, it doesn't work. The E50 runs away from the 263, so I go, oh goodness me, I've got to go and get away and get towards it. So we rocket boost to get across the gap really quickly to not take a hit from the Thunder Chief, and you're just seeing there that the rocket boosters, we end up driving around the corner, which is what we wanted to do, to get the shot into the lower plate of the 263, but we then couldn't pull back because we still had a second or two of rocket boost, which was very, very awkward. And thankfully, it just ran out in time, just for us to get back around that corner. And the 263 went, I can get him! Oh no, he's pulled back, I missed! Oh, that's awkward. And so thankfully we didn't take any hits there, because I mean he could, well, if it set us on fire, he could have killed us. And yeah, this tank does get set on fire, so it probably would have done. We're up to 3.5k damage so far with 688 assistance. We go for the shot there into the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen as he crossed the open, but sadly just went a little bit high, and I decided, okay, you know what, we know where the Griller probably is. He'll be up in that corner at A6 because that's where he was last spotted. The light tank is spotted up there as well. We're just going to cross the open to try and get after Mr. Panzerwagen. So I'm not quite sure what the Panzerwagen was going to do. We try and get the gun on target, we fire, and he gets destroyed by the E50 just as we fire there, so we don't quite get the shot into him. We see the Teeth Breaker on top of the ridge, and I'm starting to think, should I load HE? Because I could kill the Teeth Breaker with a HE round, possibly, and if I get his side armor, I could pen him with that, possibly, as long as it avoids the tracks. And there's a Griller, which means I could get up to the 640 alpha damage? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know what? HE. HE is the way forward. So we load HE. And then we're going to sit here and watch this Griller poke up in front of us. And I'm sitting there going, I just wish I hadn't loaded it. I wish I'd stuck with AP. That would have been 4k damage right there. But no. I just had to go for that extra greedy shot of 640, right? So we missed the opportunity to get the shot into the Griller. The Teeth Breaker yellows after our heavy tank. We put the HE shell in, because like I say, we're going to kill that guy with HE, even after he'd taken a hit. And put ourselves up to nearly 3.8k damage, 688 assistance, 2 kills, and the Griller 15 gets shut down by the E50. And we'll finish with a fairly average total there for the BZ-72-1. Finish with the 2 kills, 3.8k damage, 688 assistance, second class, with that 1238 base XP, which again, fairly average game there for the BZ-72, showing you off really the good and the bad, because you saw in that first instance where people were just getting shots into the lower plate quite easily. They were going through the front of the tank just really easily anyway, even at distance. The gun handling's pretty good. Generally, it hits most of the shots as long as you get it fully aimed. The DPM's alright for that 560 alpha. It slaps, which is lovely. But it's slow. And you saw it in that last section there. It is just slow. We just struggled to keep up with what was going off, and it meant we couldn't get any extra damage out of that game, which, yeah, was just painful. It's one of those where you sit there going, come on, tank, please. Get to the front line so I can do damage, you know, and then as you watch their team just melt. Yeah. But it's kind of like that with the tech tree anyway, because they've all got that similar sort of speed. A lot of the time it is where you have games where you just sit there going, I just can't get there quick enough because I'm just not mobile enough. Yeah, it can be a bit frustrating, but there you go. So we're on this second game. In the second game, we're here on Fisherman's Bay. And on Fisherman's Bay, we're already up to 587 damage with a shot to the side of that Thunder Chief. But we've taken a shot as well going around that corner. We've taken a hit from artillery, and artillery is constantly looking at us in this position, which is what they're going to do, because we're in a very open position. We're always going to end up getting spotted, and so that artillery is going to be absolutely relentless. So what you see me doing here is destroying the destructible cover building, because that building will basically make it so that we can't quite get shots of people like that Death Star or Mr. Mouse down here, because they will be blocked by the building. So we put a shot into the side of the mouse. It didn't pen. It just tracked him. I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, thanks, game. That's a good time. But we got tracking assists. So we got 912 tracking assists, which we'll take. We ended up taking out the last of that destructible cover building, which means that we'll be ready to get shots into them if they push into that gap again. Artillery says, hi, don't forget about me. I am going to just blind fire you now. And thankfully for him, unfortunately for us, yeah, he took off a shot of hit points there. We put a shot into the Lorraine 40T's turret. The artillery penned him. That was a pen from the back chat there into that Lorraine 40T. Put him down to a possible one-shot. We also got some of the assistants there. The Thunder Chief stopped looking at us, so we're going to punish him for that with a shot to his side. Up to 14 assistants with 1600 damage. We just see the E100, and I wasn't sure if I could see him, but I can, so we put a shot through his lower plate as well. And we're just taking it as careful as possible. And when you're poking around corners, as you can see what I'm doing, even though the aim circle doesn't bloom out much at all on this vehicle anyway, you can see I'm taking it quite slowly, just so that that aim circle stays as low as possible, and we're ready to instantly fire the moment we go round. So we see the mouse is crossing into the open. So you know what? Okay, Mr. Mouse, you're out in the open. We put a shot into the side of his tank. And we don't pen it again. We didn't pen the mouse in the side again, which is just unfortunate there. Both those shots were fairly unfortunate to not pen him, but there we go. So I'm just trying to find shots into the E100 or the E5, being as careful as possible because of artillery as well. We get shot into the side of the E5 for 540, but I've noticed on the map, oh boy, that's some heavy tanks down there at G1. We've got to keep our eye on that as artillery gets another shell in and knocks our driver out there. We've got to keep our eye on that, because they're going to start getting shots into our side and rear if we're not careful. We try and slap the shot into the E100, but yeah, ricochets, it was very unlikely to happen. And I'm starting to think, okay, yeah, look what's happening. They're going to get into that corner at K1, and it's going to make this fight very, very awkward. I can't get a shot at this E100. It's getting to a bit of a stalemate situation now, and that artillery has basically taken away over 1,000 hit points by just splashing us consistently. So you know what? We need to get into the counter position to their push that will be along the K line. And if that heavy tank in the corner at K2 can survive long enough, he can spot for us, we'll feed him assistance damage, and we'll be able to stop them from being able to come straight over that K2 ridge. So we're using the last of our rocket boosters here to get us back to the corner here on this little ridge at J8, J7. And from here, again, like I say, we should be able to get some shots straight into people like that BZ-75 without getting spotted, and again, stop them from pushing that section. It's just the best way to do it. So the IS-32 comes straight up on top of the ridgeline. We aim up for his lower plate. Excuse me, RNG. What was that? The shell goes straight high and ends up hitting the turret on the side, I think it was, and ends up ricocheting. That was just bad RNG. Well, thanks, game. It was really good of you, really good of you. But we're now in the perfect location, because those guys up at H3 can spot anyone that tries to come over at them. They'll also be spotting the guard. Well, this medium tank here at G5 will also be spotting people like the E5 and the E100 as they poke around that corner where that building is. So again, we just need to be that support vehicle. We need to keep our 560 alpha flowing into these guys to get rid of them. So we've just got to be patient. Patience is key to this game so far, because it is 10-9. They are technically winning. The IS-32 ends up poking over, but not quite enough. The 257 does, though, and we smashed a shot straight through his lower plate, securing our first kill of this game, putting us up to 3.8k damage. The E100 drives out sideways on. I'm just thinking, can I get the shot before he pulls back around that corner? Yes, just about. Put the shot into the side of the E100, which tracks and pens him. Gonna wait for the reload, maybe go for a blind shot, but the E5 drives out as well, so we put a shot straight into the side of the E5, but it does track damage only blind. Not quite sure where we hit him there, so it's quite likely that we may have just only hit his track without hitting the flat side. So at 4.3k damage and 14 assistance, I'm starting to look at this going, okay, this ridge has been great. This ridge has been great. We've managed to stop them from being too aggressive over the K2. They've not got shots into the back of our medium tanks. We managed to assist our medium tanks in the middle as well by getting shots into the E5 and the E100, dissuading them from pushing over too. And that meant we've kept control of this side of the map, and we've kept map control. But the Super Conquerors just died to the Cram Bomb. And I've decided, okay, I need to get over to try and see if I can get rid of the mouse, but also get rid of the E100 and possibly the E5 as well. Because they were all in that, well, the E100 wasn't, but the E5 and the mouse were in that one-shotty range. So we just need to go and try and eliminate tanks out this game now. So we see the mouse, he's spotted at E7. Not quite sure where the E100 or the E5 is, so we just want to get up onto the corner here at F8 so that we could get some shots towards where the mouse is. Maybe they wouldn't know we'd be coming. But the E100 drives around the corner. We get a shot through his lower plate, which I was quite surprised we didn't actually get spotted by him until we fired, but there we go. And since he's just fired at my medium tank that was at G6, we know we could just drive straight around the corner, put the heat round into the side of his turret, because that's about all we've got left, or is it an AP round? We might have done anyway. Yeah, we put a shot straight through the side of his turret, which finished him off. The mouse, though, I forgot about the mouse. He puts a shot straight into my side. We're aiming for that turret cheek, and we miss. Artillery's starting to look at us, and I'm sitting there going, nope, 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 not doing it. Not doing it, Artie, not doing it. And I think, right, how do I want to try and get after this mouse? I could try and side scrape around this building and then try and put a shot through his cheek, because I've got 320 heat pen. I should be able to go through that cheek, or I could go around the side. So we're going to side scrape it out. He spots us. We don't spot him until he does that. And he puts the shot straight through the hull armor there. He actually went straight through the upper plate and ends up finishing us off. And we finished the victory. The 2 kills, 5.3k damage, 1414 assistance. The first class, the sniper medal, with those 2 kills and the 1418 base XP. Again, pretty decent game there for the BZ-72-1, showing off good, bad, the ugly of the tank generally there on that map. And it was perfect for us to do what we did, in the fact that we fell back to that ridge line where we spawned, because that way we stopped the advance. We got the shots into the E100 to shut him down. We just got a bit unfortunate with the shot that ended up finishing us off from the mousy boy. And to be fair, a bit of a misplay as well, because we knew the mouse was there on that corner. We should have just gone round the other way to go try and get rid of him, but there we go. But we did get very unfortunate with 2 shots into his side earlier on in the game, though, that didn't go through, but there we go. So we're on to the third replay, and this third replay, I'm going to end up, there's going to be a point, and I'll say it when it's going to happen, where we're going to end up cutting the replay and getting towards the end of the game, and that's because it's province, and this map is just so boring. It is such a boring map to play, because you push, you die. That's province. Generally, you push, you die, because you end up giving your side armor away, and teams end up losing most of their hit points before realising, oh god, I can't move, and then it becomes a stalemate of people just sitting in the one position, which is what we're going to do, and waiting for someone else to move, and the moment that someone else moves, they die, and you get all the damage for it. And that's province. It's just such a boring map to play, it really is. And it's very one-dimensional in that regard as well, because it tends to be that one side will push one way along, say, the 2-3 line, one team will push along the 8-9 line, and whoever gets into the farming positions first will end up farming the other team as they push too aggressively, which can be super frustrating, and it ends up in a position where lots of tanks get stuck in certain positions as well. And as you can see, a Panzer 7 that's going to end up in that regard, where they just get stuck in a certain position and they can't move, and they stay there, and that's the game. And that's province. It's just really not the most fun map in the universe, honestly, but there we go. I digress. We've managed to get to the position, the farming position we wanted to be in. We get a shot into the rear of the E4. 617. Take it. Take it. So we're in the farming position we want to be in. We see the side of the Conqueror, put a shot straight through his side for 592. Ooh. Spicy rolls. Waiting on the reload. Mr. E4 is now pushing. If we can get the shot in to track him as well, that would be great. So we just gave it that little bit extra of a second there to put the shot into his rear. And it didn't track him because it went a bit high and hit the engine deck. We're up to 1764 damage. And I'm sitting there going, please spot it. If we just have one person that spots along that 8-9 line, and especially where their team was sitting out in the open, we should be able to farm them. But the E4's got himself safe, so we can't actually get shots into his side. We've got to wait for him to cross between crossing points there to be able to get any shots into him. The M103 actually gets a shot into us there from the bush area, so we can't quite get a shot into him, and I'm pretty sure he was the one that spotted us there, which is quite awkward. The shot's now starting to be blind fired into us from J9, so I'm just watching for shell tracers. The M103 drives out. We put a shot towards their lower plate, and it hit the middle of the lower plate of an M103, which is it's kind of like the E5 chassis. It's the same as the E4. If you shoot it dead center of the lower plate, you're more likely to ricochet than if you shoot it to the left and the right of it. So we've seen shell tracers fly. Oh, typical. We've seen shell tracers flying out from that side of the map. We took a blind fire, and just as we take a blind fire, BZ-72-1, and the Lewandowski go. The 60 TP drove out, got spotted, and they sit there going, I wish I hadn't fired now. So we put a shot into the side of the 60 TP. It unfortunately doesn't pen, does track damage only. So now we're nearly loaded. I'm just going to make sure I'm driving around the corner, make sure it's aimed, put a shot into his lower plate. We got set on fire from a HE round there. And that wasn't a fuel tank fire. And this is with fire prevention. Yep, that's the tank. That's the tank right there. It loves getting set on fire, even if your fuel tanks aren't damaged. And it's a super frustrating trait, to be fair, of the BZ-72-1. It really is. So, we managed to get another shot in to that guy anyway, even though we were on fire. We're now just having to sit and wait. You can see the shell tracers that are flying by. We've won this flank. We've got TD at H2, medium tank at J1. This flank is done. That's it. We've won it. So now we know we're safe. We're not going to get attacked from behind. It's just all about waiting for their team to push along the 8-9 line and get shots into their sides and rears as they do it. But our team has to spot them to be able to do that. So we're just going to have to sit and wait. This is our life now in the BZ-72-1. You can see the shell tracers are still flying past us because people are blind firing us. And again, there's just no point. There is absolutely no point in driving around this corner. We may as well just wait for someone to get spotted before we go around to try and shoot them. We know where the Panzer 7 is. Heavy tank down there is now spotted at H6, H7 as well. And I'm starting to get itchy. Again, starting to get bored, to be fair. Wanting to get some shots in. So we may as well start putting blind fires in. We know there was people in those bushes. So we may as well try and see if we can... Again, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you may as well just get shots towards the bushes and see what happens. The BZ-72-1 gets spotted down below. The Panzer 7 is still spotted, maybe in a position that I could get shots at, but I can't quite do it. The 60 TP and the E4 are pushing our STRV and E4 as well. So we're just going to wait and see if they drive round. I pinged the E4 to pull back, because if he gets himself into a position where he can get shots into them, but also drag them around the corner, that's what we want. Their E4 is trying to side scrape him out as well, so you know what? I might try and track him. And I feel like I'm going to try and track him, because maybe our E4 will get a shot into their E4 and feed me some tracking assist, because I'm not going to be able to pen him in that sort of situation. So, Panzer 7 is still spotted, heavy tank down below is still spotted, but I need to keep my eye on this E4, because again, I need to help him out if humanly possible, because we don't want that E4 to die, because he's one of the only ones up above, because the 121B is on the down low area at F7 and is kind of trapped because of the Panzer 7, although I feel like he should probably move up towards where the 60 TP currently is, because there's no one on this side of the map anymore. They are all of them, every single one is on that side of the map. So he'd probably be better up going towards where the 60 TP is and taking that area there and possibly spotting anyone that is camping along that area, because he could spot people that are currently sitting at HJ8 as well, because there's at least 2 or 3 tanks that are literally just sitting there waiting for one of us to get spotted and take shots at us as well. So we put a shot there into the side of the E4, and the shot hit him at the exact same time he dies. The exact same time he dies. So we don't get any damage there. The E4 ended up finishing him off. We put a shot into the Skoda T50 there for 630. Thank you for the roll. 630, putting him into a one-shot area for our E4, but sadly, the E4 ends up getting shut down by the 60 TP. Wait for the 60 TP to back up into a position where we can get a shot into his side, which we do, putting him down to a one-shot. We're up to 4.6k damage, and there's another E4 over there with that 60 TP as well. We're trying to snap the shot into him, but we end up damaging his tracks only. So with that 60 TP and E4 in that position now, I'm starting to think, ugh, this is now awkward, because they could start trying to blind fire me in this position. I can't get safe. That is fairly awkward. A TD gets spotted down at K5, and I do see it on the map, and I'm thinking I don't want to focus on that yet, because I don't want the E4 to just drive around and shoot me in the side. But I might start to chance it just to get shots, because again, sitting here fairly bored. The 60 TP ends up driving into a position I can't quite get shots at him. The Panzer 7 was actually out sideways on, and we didn't get around the corner quick enough to get a shot into him. And back in my mind, again, is always thinking about that E4, because that E4 is over there somewhere, and naturally he's got 850 alpha, which means I am a one-shot for him, which, yeah, and he'll just absolutely butcher my armor, which is not a good time. They've still got 6 tanks left, we've still got 6 tanks. The Conqueror ends up driving straight down the ridge, gets... You know, he pays for it. He was too aggressive, so he gets shut down. The E4 didn't pull out around the corner nearly enough there, so we couldn't get a shot into him, and so he managed to actually get himself back and safe. And once again, we're just going to start going for some blind fires into the bushes where we knew there was some people, because we're going to try and get some damage. But one of those where, again, we fired and we sit there going, I just wish I hadn't fired. So we put a shot there into the side of the FV4005's turret, and I didn't get spotted. So I'm starting to think, okay, I didn't get spotted for that. So I want to, when I'm reloaded and he gets spotted again, go after him. We put a blind fire out towards where the E4 possibly was, but he's actually there, and it was a bad choice of shot, because that 268 got spotted, and so did the TO55. We shouldn't have taken that blind fire. We should have looked at the map and seen that two people got spotted in positions we could actually shoot them, and gone and shot them instead. That was a bad fire, realistically, but there we go. We didn't get spotted for it, so we'll take it. We get ourselves back into the safe spot, waiting to see if that E4 will drive around that corner, but yeah, he doesn't end up driving around that corner. Just looking to see if we could get a blind fire into where the TO55 was, because once again, there's no point not firing at him. We may as well try. 4005 gets spotted. I didn't get spotted earlier on, so I poke around the corner, fire at him, finish him off, but we actually get spotted, and I think, oh boy, I'm dead. This is it. E4 is going to shoot me. E4 is going to kill me. We actually bounce something from across the way, whether that was the 268 or the... In fact, it was the 268 because we blocked nearly 850 Alpha. But yeah, that's where I'm going to cut it, because literally the next 5 minutes... The next 5 minutes is just sat here waiting for someone to get spotted and people yellowing off of cliffs. That was quite literally it. Until we get this final blind fire. Miss 100% of the shots you don't take. There's plenty of shell traces flying out of that bush, so I've just been constantly blind firing that position for the last 5 minutes, and then we finally hit it just before the game ends. As you can see, another shell tracer flew out. But it was literally that for 5 minutes. 5 whole minutes of just sitting in this position, waiting for someone to move, and no one moved. Either our team or their team. And it was a case of literally people going, I'm bored of this, and yelling off a cliff to try and do something and dying instantly. Which, yeah, that's province. But we finished with the 5,900 damage, the 1,084 assistance. Pretty nice game there for the vehicle. Just a very, very boring match, really. But that's province in general. So here on Dukla Pass, in the 4th and final replay, what we want to do on encounter spawns is go to F3, where we can use the 8 degrees of gun depression that this vehicle has, go hull down, try and bounce some shots off our turret, and then get these big 560 Alpha rounds into people as they cross the 1 line, and also try and counter people that go to F4 as well, because that's the kind of position that I'd go to. It's a good position for shooting people in the side along F1, F2, but it can be an annoying position as well, because if someone tries to hard counter you, yeah, it can be pretty awkward. So we're just using the rocket boosters again, and the rocket boosters are very, very handy for getting you into position early. And you always end up expending 2 or 3, at least, depending on the map, to be able to get yourself into that situation. Never use all 5 boosts in one sitting, because you're going to need them at some stage. It's always best to use 2 or 3, and then just stick with your top speed, which is, like I say, very slow. So we're here now in the position with the 8 degrees gun depression, showing just our turret, trying not to over-peak here with a Murat and M48 120mm and stuff staring at us, and a Sturm Tiger, and artillery. But we've managed to spot these guys, so that's got us 481 assistance. The artillery ends up smashing us. We see the opportunity to get the shot into the side of the Felice's turret, though, so we get the side shot there into the Felice's turret. Always going to say Felice or Felice. It's Felice, to add that bit of spice, that bit of Italian spice to the name, right? Felice. So we see the M48 120mm on that little ledge, and I decide, okay, I want to push this guy out of his position. I don't want him to stay there. So we put a shot into his lower plate and decide, okay, he's coming over. Let's ram him with a rocket. Oh, yeah, my maneuverability is poor. This was an absolute waste of a rocket boost, and it's making this situation very awkward. We see his upper plate. We can pen it. We hit his gun. We hit his gun, so we bounce. Thankfully, though, he bounces, and while face-hugging him, just waiting to make sure we're going to put a shot through his upper plate and finish off the M48 120mm. We're now in a perfect position with this windmill to our left, though, which gives us some cover, and we can try and get shots into the sides of people like Mr. Mouse, Mr. E4, or the 277. So we get a shot straight through the side of the E4 there. There's now a moisture coming over, and I'm seeing this guy going, oh my good lord, that's not good. He can end up putting shots into our upper plate, lower plate, maybe set us on fire. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. He puts a shot straight through our track there, which tracked and penned us, by the way, and then gets himself back safe because he takes a load of hits doing that. We see the E4, and I want to try and get rid of this E4 as quickly as possible. Naturally, we hit him in the engine, set him on fire, and finish off the E4. We obviously wanted to get rid of that E4 because that's 850 Alpha, gun that doesn't care about our armor whatsoever, and if he decided to turn his gun on us, it wouldn't be a good time. So we're up to 3.1k damage with 1304 assistance damage. Just looking for shots here into the 277 who's on the cross. We still have the Moisture and a machine in front of us. So with the machine now trying to overpoke to get shots into our friends on our left, I decided to put a shot through his side and then start pulling back because he looks angry. Oh my lord, the machine is angry. He's definitely angry. So we get the reload in, and thankfully just reloaded in time to shut down that machine. He clearly did not like us shooting him in the side, did he? Nope, not at all. So we're up to 4,007 damage, 1,304 assistance. I want to try and get rid of the heavy tank that's at E4 if I can, and in fact the Kranbong ends up shutting down the Moisture, which is good. Heavy tank's pulled back behind D1. Thankfully, the Batchat misses his shot, so that's great for us. And what I'm starting to think now is, okay, I want to poke over this ridge and see if I can spot anything. But in fact, the T-95 gets spotted. Perfect. Put a shot straight through the T-95, finishing him off. It was the perfect HP there for us to shut him down. The Chaug is now driving up into a position where we can get a shot into him, so we're aiming for that turret ring, and thankfully, the shot goes straight through the turret ring. He's now a one-shot for us with 65 HP, just waiting on the reload, but he gets shut down by the T-95E6. We're at 5,092 damage, 1,795 assistance. The mouse is just in a position we can't get a shot at him, and so is the heavy tank. But then we notice that there's the medium tank and the TD, and we can actually get shots into the side of the Sturm Tiger. So we put a shot straight through the side of the Sturm Tiger, who's pulling back, waiting on our reload, because we might be able to get another shot into him before he gets himself truly safe. But he actually ends up getting unspotted. But we spot him, he spots us. We get a shot that's fairly lucky there to go through the side of that Sturm Tiger, but we'll take it. Putting us on to 6,096 damage with the 4 kills so far, 1,795 assistance, and there's 4 tanks left on the enemy team. So we use the rocket boosters. Rocket boosters so that I could go down to the right and try and get some shots into the Sturm Tiger, or I could use these rocket boosters to try and get around this area here. Put ourselves in a position where we may be able to get shots into the artillery, which we actually can't, but then get ourselves into a better position to get a shot into the Sturm Tiger, who does end up getting shut down by the Kranbong. And finish the game with a really nice total there for the BZ-72-1 again, with the epic victory. 4 kills, 6,096 damage, 1,600 assistance, the 1,795 assistance damage, the first class, with that sniper medal, and the 1,600 base XP. Very nice game there for the BZ-72-1, which, yeah, let's say it's a fairly well-balanced tank. He can do well in it. It's a pain at times. The fires are annoying. But on the whole, it's not a badly balanced vehicle. It's just pretty balanced, to be fair. That's what the BZ-72-1 is. And it's generally a nice addition. It's pretty expensive, but at least it's not absolutely mental, eh? So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!